Hello there, and welcome once more to the Emerald Heart. Yes, we're actually on air after an enforced couple of weeks break, but I'm Alan Cox, and Dave Ashworth should be on the other line right now. Hi, Dave.
Evening, Alan. How are you? Good evening to all the listeners.
Yeah, we were just saying that you were saying about the energy shift, and you're saying that you're having a tiring day, and I didn't realise that, and that's exactly what I've been having. So
we've just had this this fantastic period of expansion, which really began with the autumn equinox, and right through winter, and particularly through January, there was a massive uplift in energy. And as I've mentioned before, this is a year of expansion. But when you see the universe in the way that I see it and how it moves like an ocean. So you get waves coming in, and you get an acceleration as a wave comes in sometimes, and then you have this period of stillness or stasis where everything stops and everything becomes heavy and difficult, and that's where we are right at this moment in time. So we've had this amazing trip so far through January, February, March, and towards the end of April, things began to slow down, and it's like the Earth is or the universe is taking a breath. So it's had its in-breath and its expansion, and now it's kind of in that place just before the out-breath. And it's the out-breath is quite often like a sigh. It's almost sighs from your body, and it's that process of relaxation where you've had a period of exertion, and you sit down on the chair and you go, just give me a cup of tea, let me have a sit down and put my feet up. Well, so that's where we are right now, is in that space.
Well, have you realised I text over to you, I think it was only yesterday, the topic for today, and I was told ask and have. Well, whatever we've asked for and whatever we have right now, then obviously this period of time is about, shall we say, embracing what we have before we ask for whatever it is we think we need.
Yeah,
so that's where the ask and have comes into it.
Well, that's right. When our guidance goes out each period, usually about every 6 weeks, but this one's taken a little bit longer, there's always an essence that goes out, a vibrational essence for people to take. And the one this period is extreme gratitude. So that fits perfectly with what you were just saying. So we've just had this massive period of expansion, and in this period now of stasis, what we need to do is just go inward and reflect on the glories that have been presented to us in the previous 3 or 4 months, and enter into the gratitude of that process. And as we learn to show gratitude for everything we've got, or everything that is brought to us, even if it appears to be negative, there's no such thing as anything that's negative in this world or in lifetimes on Earth. But we often perceive certain things as negative. So, if a tough thing comes to you, just give gratitude for it. Say, thanks very much. Now, what am I supposed to be learning from this situation that I perceive as negative?
Well, that makes a lot of sense, actually, Dave, because lots of times we fall into a situation and, shall we say, flounder and desperately kind of sway about trying to find perhaps a way out of a situation, instead of, as you've just said, taking a slight step back and saying, okay, this is here for a reason, and what's the reason, and what am I supposed to take from the situation? So there's not many negatives that can't be turned around to a positive.
No, that's right. So, death being one of them.
Yes.
But of course, death is only the transition into the next phase. You know, I was once at a funeral many years ago. It was a Catholic funeral, and the minister was very illuminating with a little story, and he was talking about the process of passing from one state to another. And he said, if you think about twins in the womb, when they're reaching that point where they're getting ready for birth, and they already know each other on so many levels from being in the womb together, being, well, almost twin souls, if you like. And all of a sudden, one twin leaves the womb and is born into this world. Does the other twin think that's the end? He's now on his own. The other one's dead. But then the other one comes through the door and they're both in this world. And then we go through the door out of this world again and enter another world. And all we're doing is passing from one state to the other.
Going back a few years ago, Dave, I had this short video sent to me. And I've got it on my computer somewhere. And you're on about that, about twins coming into the world. And there's like 2 babies in the womb, and the song is the final countdown, and the one baby is singing the final countdown all the time. And the other baby says, just wait until I get out of here. The other one's driving him mad. And I think that's very significant in a way, because we can sometimes allow other people to, in a way, take over our emotions and affect us.
Yeah.
So, you know,
definitely. Well, you know, just before we came on air, we were both saying how exhausted we were, and I was about to send you a text before we came on, just to say thank God for you, Alan, because I'd never remember this radio show half the time. And you came on.
It's your show. It's your show. But other guys telling us something.
Yeah, we both came on and said, shall we just replay a previous show and go to bed early? And that's this energy that we're in right now. It's, you know, that's just the way it is. And, you know, a great thing to do at this time is just to go and be in nature and sit with an oak tree, because the oak tree will take things from you. It'll nurture you and it'll give you strength. And the other key thing right at this moment in time is not to push things. Gently urge things in the right direction, but don't try and push stuff, because the universe isn't uplifting things and carrying them forward. It's taking a breather. And without the universe, nothing goes anywhere. So, you know, we can dance around and jump up and down and try and make things happen, but they won't happen unless they're meant to happen. So, you know, let's all take a deep breath, chill out for the next 2 to 3 weeks, and just go with the flow, and just be in that place of inner calm and stillness, and not worry too much about what's happening outside.
You see, that's very good advice, and it makes perfect sense. But then the reality of this world that we live in kind of takes over sometimes, and it can be very difficult for somebody to look at life like that. You got to take a step back, which sometimes is a very difficult thing to do.
Well, it's not a natural thing to do because of the way we've been brought up in life and in this world for most people. You know, in difficult situations, we try and make a new situation out of the difficulties rather than allowing a process to unfold so we can see how things are working. So we kind of get stuck, don't we? We get stuck in the habit of being human. Yeah.
Now, this thing about ask and have. Now, there's different ways of asking, and there's different kind of things to ask for. Yeah. There's a very kind of selfish way of asking, because I don't know, you want a new car, You want to buy a bigger house, so you ask for the money to come for it. And if it happens a few times, then you have it, and it's like, well, if you just ask, you'll have it. So it's ask and have. But then there's another way of asking for what's really important. Asking for guidance to how to live your life properly, how to help other people, how to get the best out of your life and the best out of other people in the sense that you're helping them to get the best out of their lives. So the words ask and have don't have to be a selfish thing.
No, not at all. I mean, the asking part really is about entering the empty space sometimes. You know, we're going through life, difficulties come our way, we enter the empty space and just ask for the guidance. Don't ask for the things that you think as a human will solve the problem. Just ask for the guidance on how to take the next step. And what you find is, I mean, we had a situation recently with some of the teachers. They raised a question about a process we'd introduced. And you know what it's like working with guidance. Guidance sometimes gives you half a story.
Yes.
So what guidance will do is says, here's this thing, take it into the world. And it's not until you take it into the world do you find the shortcomings with it. And then guidance says, well, how are you going to solve that now then? Because guidance is always trying to teach us. So in the process, you know, a couple of the teachers were very, very upset about this process. And I just kept saying to them, just trust, the guidance will give us the answer when it's ready to give us the answer. And it took about 3 weeks, and then the answer was given. And everybody said, oh, well, that's perfect. So, you know, it's that, I'm sitting here saying, okay, where do we go with this? How do we solve this issue? And you do just have to wait 2 or 3 weeks sometimes. And the guidance will give it when the guidance is ready to give it. And that's always at the most appropriate time.
It's, you see, really, when you stop and think about it, at any given time, we do have what we need.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part to relate to, that we do actually have.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So when you're asking for whatever, then you have to ask the question to yourself, have I already got what I'm asking for? And I don't mean a new car. Because but if you've got a car, and then you already have what you need.
Yeah. If you need to travel to do your work, the universe will provide what you need to do the work, providing it's spiritual work, of course.
Yeah.
It will give you the tools to do the job. There's no doubt about it. And if you don't need to travel, or you don't need to travel by car, then it won't provide such a thing. But as you know, universe provided you with a car a few years ago, didn't it?
I mean, it's really. I'm not going to say strange, but it's just proof that it works. I mean, just quickly, my father-in-law. He was going through a bad time, bad tinnitus and that, and he said, well, come and stay with us for a few days, and he did. And we was out in the car one day, and he said, Alan, you need a new car? I said, yes, I know, Fred, I can't afford one. He says, go and buy one. I said, I can't afford one, Fred. He says, no, I'm paying for it. I said, and I'd always wanted a Rover 75, so I had the opportunity to have a Rover 75, and I've still got it, and I absolutely love it and adore it, and I've got no intention of getting rid of it. And I've had that car now 8 years, and it was 3 years old when I had the car. And it's a lovely car. So the universe gave me, first of all, what I really needed, and then it allowed me to have the choice of what I needed. So yes, it works.
Well, that's just happened to me in a similar sort of way. One of the things the universe is teaching me to do at the moment is to trade. I've never been any good with money, with buying and selling things. You know, I always pay too much for it and I always sell it too cheap. And as I've come into this kind of, I wouldn't call it semi-retirement, but it is, what the universe has said to me is, you've done all this work for all these years, Dave, and now we want you to, you know, you're reaching that age where you need to take it a little bit easy and have a bit of fun. And so, you know, I sat there one day and the universe said, well, what's your passion? I said, well, it's always been old English sports cars. That's my passion. But, you know, I can't afford a shed full of them. And you know, in the last 3 years, it's brought me a lot of things along that path. And just recently, because it's teaching me to trade and make an income another way, it's keeping me completely without money. all the clients have deserted me now, and at the same time the universe is saying you can't work with those people anymore, Dave. You have to move in a new direction. So I reached a point a couple of weeks ago where I was down to no money again. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to put one of my classic car pieces on eBay. So I put it on eBay, and it was a reasonable thing. It would have turned me in about £1,600 or £1,700. It paid me bills then for another couple of months. And the first day it went on eBay, I got a message from a guy with his phone number saying, do you want to part X this for 2 Triumphs that are completely dismantled? So I gave him a ring, and I went down there the next day, down Kidderminster way. Not a million miles from you. And there were these 2 Triumphs locked away in a barn, completely dismantled. So it was a horrific sight to begin with, because you think, where am I going to start? First moving all this stuff, then reassembling it all. So we negotiated a price, and basically they were a gift from the universe. It was as simple as that. So he says, yeah, that roof system, exactly what I'm looking for my Triumph, so let's do a deal at this price. And I said, well, you know, I'm just thinking it's a lot of work to move all this stuff. He says, we're a farming family. We've got strong hands here. We've got trailers. He says, I'm going to build one of these into a rolling chassis for you. We're going to get it onto trailers for you, and all you need to do is come and pick it up and unload it at the other end. So it's almost like it's delivered as well. So, you know, the ask and have thing, this is the universe saying, you want to play with this stuff, Dave. You want to enjoy what's left of your life while you've still got some energy and strength to play with the classic motors, which you've always done. You know, I've had one most of my life, you know, from when I was a teenager. I got my first old English sports car. And so it's now saying, well, you've still got a lot of work to do in the spiritual world, but in a different way. But you also need to have some fun now. So here's some toys, have some fun. But at the same time, I've got to learn to wheel and deal a bit to get it. And, you know, over the years, I've always said to myself, how do people find these things that are locked away in sheds and barns? I can't find any, and there you are. They just appear when the time is right.
Yeah, well, that's it, you see. And I suppose people are saying, well, what we're talking about in the show's called the Emerald Heart. And you say, well, what's that to do with the Emerald Heart? Well, the Emerald Heart is about finding spirit, finding God, a direction, lessons to learn, and also about asking and having what you need. So it's all connected. Just the normal way of living is all connected to our journey with spirit, isn't it?
Yeah. The Emerald Heart is a true traditional spiritual path that opens the heart. And as you open the heart, it reveals the truth. So the first truth you learn about true spirituality is that most of it is common sense. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
But people don't usually apply common sense to their life. And as the light begins to open the heart, it's about learning to hear and perceive the truth. It's the truth of your life path. So, people like you and I have, devoted our lives 100% to the universe, to the spiritual path, to God, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And in return, we know it works us hard and it pushes us to the edge all the time. But the rewards are always there in many different ways. And, I'm entering that period now where the universe is honouring what I've given to the universe through the law of reflection. And the spiritual path is about learning about the universal laws and how to ride with them, really. It's how to flow with them in and out of the universal changing patterns that are with us at all times. Like we said at the beginning of the show, this is the energy of the period we're entering now. So, flow with it and don't struggle.
Well, you see, I suppose we're mostly brought up to, shall we say, almost like not wanting to, but believing that the only way forward is to struggle. And yeah, okay, life can be a struggle from time to time, but we can create our own struggle, or we can make a situation into a struggle, instead of, if you want to use the expression, going with the flow.
Yeah. Well, I think I've been the master of struggle over the years, on and off.
I'm pretty well there with you, Dave.
We're out of the same school, aren't we?
Yeah. I think if we was running a marathon, I think we'd be side by side somewhere towards the back.
Yeah, definitely. And probably running in the other direction. Yeah. Missing all the signposts. That's
right. Oh, I can do that all right. No problem.
But that's often what the spiritual path is about. And I'll give you a classic example of this if we've got time. We've got 4 minutes, haven't we?
Yeah.
Somebody, as I say, I don't really work with a lot of clients anymore. But a lady rang in the other day, and my assistant said, "Oh well, Dave doesn't take clients anymore because I'm working flat out with the Emerald Heart people all the time." Mm. And I will always look at a case and evaluate whether I think I can move that person forward. If that person is really ready to move forward, then I'll give them a shot. I'll let them have some of my time. Yeah. But the universe won't allow me to waste that time on people that are going nowhere. And so this woman's, I could read this woman's heart as she was talking to me. And she'd come across a copy of a book of mine that had been in a box for 10 years. And she said, I absolutely knew I had to get in touch. And I could feel this in the heart. I said, well, this is what it's going to cost you for me to take this case. Or you can speak with a colleague of mine, and this is what it'll cost you here. Now, her heart was telling her, don't think about the money. Get the best you can possibly get for what you need right now. But what she did was chose my colleague. So she completely ignored the God that was speaking through her heart, and she went with the mind that is telling her, oh, you can't afford this. But of course the woman had a shop. And the way the universe works is the minute you make the right decision, it'll bring people into that shop to buy some stuff so you've got the money to exchange. Because it's all about the balance, the law of balance in exchange. So I set the barrier. I say, that's what you've got to jump over. And if they jump over it, I'll give them everything I can give them. And if they don't jump over it, well, they carry on trying to learn the lesson for as long as it takes. But, what the guidance does is set the lesson in front of them. And, we know all about the lessons, don't we, Alan?
Oh, I should say we do, yeah.
Still learning, eh?
Yeah, you see, what's that expression? We're in the school of life, and we certainly are. And just when you think you're ready to score a goal, somebody comes along and moves the goalpost.
Yeah, that's it. or next the ball.
Or next the ball, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I think we've virtually done the first half, believe it or not. Do you want to tell everybody, Dave, before we go to break, how they can find you with the Emerald Heart?
Yeah, you can find us on emeraldheartlight.com. That'll take you to our blog. In the next day or so, the guidance for this period will be published. And if you want to take an essence to help ride this period and prepare yourself for the next period of expansion, that'll be available through the blog. So that's emeraldheartlight.com. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, Dave. And if anybody's interested in catching up on me, it's calmingthoughts.com. So we'll go to a break and back after this. Welcome back to Emerald Art Radio. This is Alan Cox, and that is Dave Ashworth.
Hello again. Welcome to part 2.
That's it. We're debating because I'm tired, you're tired, Dave, and Dr. Dave is tired. So we're thinking about having a new show, the Snoring Show. So we'll come on one of these weeks and just have an hour of you listening to the three of us snoring.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll catch on?
Well, I'm hopeful that the art critics out there will think this is a groundbreaking piece of new art, as they did with Andy Warhol's 24 Hours of Lights coming on and off in New York.
That's right.
Well, as you said before, Alan, it'll go viral, then we can all retire.
That's right, yes. It'll be all on YouTube, all over there.
Yeah.
Especially if we set up a camera and everybody could just see us sitting there snoring. Yeah. I think that would be good.
Yeah.
So is this the direction that the Emerald Art want us to go in?
Well, that's a good question. I've no idea, really. What do I know?
I actually think sometimes, although life is serious, sometimes you have to, what's the word? Throw caution to the wind and show your humanity, your human side. And life doesn't have to be serious all the time, do it?
No, not at all. You've got to laugh. It's as simple as that. If we couldn't laugh at the absurdity of some of the situations we find ourselves in as spiritual workers, then you would just cease to exist. You would implode. You would go mad or something like that. Because sometimes I look at situations where things have been sent into my life, and I think, you couldn't make it up. Some of this stuff. There's just the scenarios and the things we have to go through in the process of awakening. And it's very interesting. We were talking about this the other day, some of the things, and people sometimes say to me, how do you survive going through those inner transformations and those processes? And the answer is, you don't have a choice. You just have to survive the processes of the inner turmoil. So as you enter into a process of inner turmoil, when you've been through it a few times, you know that you're going to come out the other side. But when this first begins to happen to you, you have no clue at all. You're going into the darkness, or as the darkness consumes you, night of the dark soul type experiences. You haven't got a clue where you're going to come out, but or even if you're going to come out. But as I say, with a little bit of experience, you do know you're going to come out the other side, and so you just hang on and ride the storm. And each time you come through one of those periods of deep transformation, you kind of wonder to yourself, is that the last one I've got to do in this life, or is there more to come? because it can be so deeply tiring, the whole experience. And a deep transformation for most people will last a period of maybe 2 or even 3 years. I've had many. I've gone from one deep transformation process. You feel yourself coming out of it and you go straight into another one. And when you look back on these, of course, to a certain degree, it's a little bit like when you feel poorly. When you're ill, you feel ill. But the minute you feel better, you start to forget what it was like when you felt ill.
That's true, that is.
Yeah, you come through a transformation, and although it leaves you scarred, there's no doubt about it, because of the extreme inner trauma of the changes you go through on an internal level. You forget the pain of most of it. And I was chatting with someone just the other day, and it was funny, the memory of some of these things were coming up, and I was just telling them the tale, the best I could remember it. And they were saying, how do you go through this, Dave? Well, you can't answer that. But you kind of take the view that God isn't going to give you something that you can't handle, but boy, will he push you to the limit of your endurance.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And coming back to the theme, ask and have, there's no way you can imagine asking for this stuff.
but then you can then argue that what we go through in this life is that what we've asked for before we came down here.
Oh, no doubt about it, yeah. I often look at the situation, and I know that I've come from a period of very, very dark lives into one life where, I can imagine myself sitting in the cafe with God before this incarnation, and he's reading out the list of misdemeanors over the previous lives, and he's saying, well, Dave, there's a lot of karma to pay off here, and it's building up lifetime after lifetime. I think it's time you change the plan a little bit. So you're going to go down into this life, and we're going to give you some stuff to work through. And as you come out at the end of this life, you'll be really prepared to fly by the time you enter into the next life. And I see that very clearly in clients and students sometimes, that all they're really doing is preparing for the next life.
But you see, you enter into the Emerald Art. Yeah. And people could ask, well, what is the journey about? What are you looking for? And I don't see that there's particularly one answer to that, because we all have our own journey, and we're all looking to find, is it our own answer, our own peace of mind, our own destination?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question. Ultimately, we're all on the same journey, and we're all going to the same place. But everybody's journey is different, because they need to experience and learn different things on that journey. But one of the things that we're all looking for on a certain point on the journey is inner peace. And, I remember, from probably being a late teenager, that I knew I was seeking peace, and I could never find peace, and I could never find quiet. If ever I went on a holiday, there was always a building site next to it, and I would never go on a holiday till I really needed the rest, and you got no rest because there was the noise of the building site. And it was just that constant seeking for peace through most of my life. And then I reached a point where the universe suddenly put me into this little place in the country. As I sat down to work one morning, it came in and said, you need to phone this person. And I knew why. I knew why it was. It was something to do with the property and moving. And so I took no action. I thought, well, I'll wait to hear the guidance twice. The following morning, exactly the same time, as I sat down at my desk, I got the same message again, phone this person. So I sent an email, and I said, dear so-and-so, do you by any chance have any properties coming up for rent on the estate? 20 minutes later, an email came back and said, "How do you know these things? Somebody just handed the notice in." And you know, I now live in this place of peace.
And it's a really nice place. It's got lovely energies. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in fact, I think I moved in May 4 years ago into this place, and of course this is the time of year where the birds are in full song because they're all mating and dancing around and having a bit of fun and building nests. And I actually thought I would go mad with the bird song. It was that intense. And you know, I absolutely love this period in the year now. I sleep with the bedroom window open so I can hear them start in the morning at 5 o'clock. And I just keep flipping in and out of the sleep and listening to the bird song. And it's so stunning and so penetrating. It's amazing.
Well, we get the same thing because, as you know, where we live, we've got the fields, the open fields at the back. And, it is about 4:45, 5 o'clock in the morning, the birds start. And when I first moved here, I'll be honest, it had used to annoy me. But now it's if you're not hearing it straight away, it's almost, well, what's wrong, what's happened? And then kind of a relief that they're there. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, when we get into kind of June, end of June, July, it's totally silent because they've all done their singing for the year. That's it. They're feeding the young and they're totally exhausted because they're looking after a bunch of kids. But, you know, speaking about the theme ask and have, I was so desperately asking for peace, inner peace, silence around me my whole life. And when I reached a certain point, you might say I'd paid a bit of that karma off, and the universe says, okay, you've done your work. Here, now play with this, relax a little bit. Well, as we both know, there's no such thing about relaxing when you're working for the universe, but at least it does give you a taste of what you're looking for now and again. And, you know, coming back to what we were saying earlier about the gratitude, I sometimes walk out the back door there and just look around me and look into the trees, and I really do give thanks for what the universe has provided. It's absolutely stunning and amazing.
Well, it is, and it isn't just in where you live. It isn't in just what you have, but it's also about who you share your days with, your times with. And by that I don't mean not necessarily just one special person, which is obviously very important, but even everybody that you come in contact with in a day. Even if it's just popping into a shop or a supermarket and having just a couple of minutes talk to somebody, that in itself is one of life's pleasures and miracles.
It is, absolutely, yeah. And you know that old saying comes to mind: if you see somebody without a smile, give them one of yours.
I like that. That sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's profound when you think about it, because it costs you nothing. And do you know, I sometimes think people must think I'm crazy because I walk down the street smiling at everybody.
Well, today I found I found the hospital to see how my mum was getting on. It was this morning. And one of the nurses answered. I hadn't said who I was or anything. The nurse answered the phone, and it was in the morning. I said, "Good afternoon," and I burst out laughing. I said, "You want to go home, don't you? You want the day to be gone?" And she hadn't got a clue who I was or anything, and she suddenly burst out laughing. So then I said who I was and that, and it was just a nice, spontaneous thing that. It's kind of lightening atmospheres and making other people and yourself feel good, even if it's only for a second. Yeah,
that's right. It's just those little interactions in life. Then, you know, that's what life is about. The way the universe communicates with us is always through other people. If you isolate yourself and, you know, you'll basically live in a cave by yourself, the God consciousness is very rarely going to be able to speak with you or communicate with you, because more often than not, it does it through other people. It's through other people that the answers come. And they don't realise half the time that they're the innocent victims, if you like, of God speaking through them. You know, you might be walking down the street contemplating some difficult situation in life where you need to find some answers, and you bump into somebody, or you're chatting with someone on the phone like you were earlier today, and all of a sudden the answer comes out of their mouth. That happened to me once, and I can't actually remember the details of the situation, but I'd been writing a book about something or other, and I was just having this consultation one morning with this very elderly lady, and she was very switched on, always had been, totally connected with spirit, and she just came out with this line that I needed, which was perfect to give me the focus for this book. And so I finished the book about 12 months later, and I sent her a copy. And unfortunately, the poor old dear had pegged out a couple of months before, but at least I put her name in the front of the book, you know, as the gratitude. Thanks very much for this, because it really gave me the focus I needed to finish that book. And that's, you know, how the universe works. It's like Dave's looking for an answer. He's having a consultation with this lady, Joanne, later on. So God says, I'm going to give Dave the answer through Joanne. And when it hits him, he'll absolutely know it came from me, because of the way it hits him in the heart. But, you know, she's also the messenger. She's part of the creation process.
So, all these different things that we ask for, those requests, those asking, ultimately then becomes part of us, and even part of the universe, because whatever it is we put out there has to go somewhere, and it has to stay there. So the more things that we positively ask for, then that's creating an energy for others to subliminally pick up on. And if you're asking for positive things, then you're going to create a positive reaction. And that is like if you walk into a room and suddenly one person starts to talk positively, and it goes to another, you can actually feel the energies of that room alter.
Absolutely, yeah. And, you know, speaking about asking and having, you know, the universe will always deliver what you need and not what you want. So we quite often think we know what we want, but in reality, the universe knows what we need. You know, there's... I was speaking... Sorry, did you want to say something, Alan?
Well, no, all I was just thinking of, Dave, was, you know, we think of ourselves. It's a natural thing. We think about ourselves. And if we want something, and we need something, or we want something to happen, it isn't just ourselves. It has to fit in with other people as well. And if something is meant to happen, and even if it takes a year or 2 years or 5 years to happen, but what you have to remember is that it has to be right for the other people who will be involved as well. In other words, you just can't force what you want onto other people and expect it all to gel together.
No, not at all. Not at all. You know, in the Emerald Heart, there's a hierarchical structure. There's no other way of putting it, really. You know, there's a boss at the top, if you like, and there's many layers of workers below. We're a bit like a hive of bees, if you like. And
it's like a big company, isn't it?
It is. I quite often see it like a ship with the captain and many layers of people that make that ship function and go from place to place. And what you have to learn to do when you're running something like this is constantly let go. So as the creator, you know, I'm the person that the light was given to bring into this world. So I was very attached to this. This was my baby, if you like. But you go through processes where you realise you're not going to take this with you. You're going to depart from this life at some point. So what are you actually going to leave behind? Well, in order to leave anything useful behind, you've got to let go of the whole thing and hand it to other people. So, a year or so ago, well, just under a year ago, actually, I handed it to the 4 elders. And the elders group is now in the process of growing. Some other people have come up through the ranks of the Emerald Heart, are working very hard with the light, and they're moving into that position of elders. And at some point, I'll shuffle off the mortal coil, and the elders will take my place. And that's as it should be, because otherwise, if you try and hold it too close to yourself and control it, the only thing you're going to do is strangle the baby at birth.
I'm just going to say, you're not going to come back and haunt them, are you?
Well, you never know. You know what this world's like. You can never say never.
That's right.
I wouldn't like to think that I'm going to come back and upset them in any way, though.
No, not at all.
It's a funny old world.
It is. It's crazy, but we're almost out of time again. It's this hour just seemed to go very quickly.
It does. It's had a nice flow to it tonight. We've had a bit of a laugh. It's always good to have a laugh in there. And, I hope that our guests are laughing with us and not laughing at us. But it doesn't really matter if they are, does it, Alan?
Not really. Not really.
No, we're in our old world and we're happy with it.
Yes, there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. I'll tell you a funny story. It's a very quick one, sorry.
Okay.
There's, that saying, I've seen the light, yeah?
Yes.
Everybody uses that at some point, you might be learning to cook a new dish and you'd say, I've seen the light, I know how to do it now. Well, that saying actually means that I have seen the light of the universe, or I have seen or experienced the light of God, or the Christ light. And the interesting thing is, for all those people that have actually experienced that, you can see the people that haven't. And the people that haven't can never understand what that actually means until they've seen the light. And what that does is almost like drives a wedge between humanity. It's like there are 2 layers of humanity. Those that have actually experienced the light and those that don't yet know what it means.
We've just got 50 seconds and Dave's counting down, so we're probably down to about 40 now. So if you'd like to lead us out, then Dave, thank you everybody for listening.
Yeah. Well, that's what our work is all about, helping people to see the light. And so, on that note, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Good night.
Good night.
Of the